So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's June the 9th, and just in speaking with Mike, there's just a few things that we want to cover today as we review our responsibilities as launch partners and NECANN business partners, and in our efforts this year to build, to grow our teams, our organizations, and what have you. I want to perhaps just initially flip it over to Mike. Mike had an interesting experience just recently with a request that came in for someone wanting to become a launch partner. And what it did was it triggered some thoughts about what a launch partner actually means. What is our requirement, our responsibility here, what we're talking about. So, Mike, do you want to share your thoughts on this?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. And by the way, remind me to share some thoughts about my dinner conversation with Kurt, some of the things that I think might be good highlights for us. But anyway, I wanted to say I did get a request recently, which I approved, but I didn't see the fine print until I got the questionnaire sent back, the 5 questions that I asked people to give me their goals, all their contact information, etc. Their dates, their 3 dates for their launch, monthly launch events. I got one solid launch date. I got all 3 dates, but then in the notes below, I said, this one is sort of firmed up. These ones are maybes. So it was like, okay, somebody is instructing this person to become a launch partner, but they're not really a launch partner. So, and they were not even, I believe their rank was direct. I can't be sure because it didn't tell me, it just said distributor. It didn't say what their actual rank is at this time. So until now, the launch partners have been people of tenure, people who have, like yourselves, who've been in the business, who've acquired ranks, and who are people who know how to host an event, etc. And we don't want to limit it to that. We do want to have an expansion policy so that we can grow this business and grow this team and grow this group to a point where we have more events, just like in Mexico, where they're sort of the lead pack right now. And if they've got 1,000 events going on in 3 months, that's certainly a target for us to look at. But that means more people involved. And so we do want to look at how to expand the launch partners to include more people. What might be some of the suggestions you guys have as to where to sort of open it up? What's the framework around which we're opening it up? Right now, we still have the requirement of they have to have goals for 2017. They have to have 3 events, 3 launch dates. Ben, I'm not sure if you can mute that line. That's 604 telephone number calling in. If you guys can help us with your thoughts on that, just send me a private chat message so it doesn't have to be the LP's discussion. Just so that we can get a larger group participating in the event discussion and et cetera. But hopefully these are people that you're working with yourselves. But we do want 3 events. The green flyers are now ready. They're in all the languages you need them to be. There's even one that's going to be posted shortly, which is a Spanish flyer, even though the event is taking place in the US. That'll be in Chicago, by the way, next week. So look for more of that. I'm sure that's going to happen in other markets as well. But let's also ramp up our calendar of events, our pre-planned schedules, because Ben, for instance, is looking at planning his fly-ins. I'm looking at planning mine, and we need to know who's doing what and where you're doing them. So I've just sort of created my Excel spreadsheet to include the next 6 months starting this month, so I can start populating the spreadsheet with who's doing what where that we can tap into. So for you that are on this call, those who are listening to the playback, it's totally go time. My dinner with Kurt was it was a phenomenal day. He and I had lunch and dinner, so we had quite a bit of time to discuss everything from the business to our personal lives to just a number of things. And we even had a toast. Our toast was a toast in honor of a successful 2017. I said, let's think of, this is the day after 2017, and we're now looking back and we're thinking about what happened in 2017. What an amazing year we had. What an incredible turnaround year. And I started to refer to it as year one because the Toronto Maple Leafs did the same thing. This is their 100th year in hockey. But the guys that do the marketing, instead of writing it 100, they wrote 001 as in year one. And this team had an absolutely amazing year this year. They made the playoffs for the first time in years. And they hadn't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. So the Toronto fans are crazy excited about the idea that this is the first year of the beginning of a new Toronto Maple Leafs franchise. So I was kind of telling him about that, and we're talking about the fact that this is in fact year one for Nikan because of all the changes. The company's now oriented in a very particular way. So I want to also emphasize, you guys, Bernadette, when I was in that dinner meeting, did a call on Monday on my behalf, the Aligning with Success call. There's a very, very important message in that call. So I want to encourage you to listen to it, all launch partners to listen to it, because I think it will really help you with your mindset, making a mental shift as to what it is that we're tasked with. And I just saw the eyes light up of the people in Bernadette's living room when I shared this insight, and how it was like the shoe dropped. In particular, one person, I said, so what would you have done differently? What would you say? What would that phone call have sounded like, this last phone call that you made, had this been your mindset? And just the words that came out of his mouth, it was so effortless. It was so on point. It was like, so wow. So a little slight shift in your mindset can be so incredibly impacting in the way you attract people and the way they hear you. So I want to emphasize that. I don't know if I missed anything, but I'll come back to it if I do recall. Just one other thing about our dinner with my dinner with Kurt. I tell you this. I honestly said to him, and he was actually surprised when I said this. I said, Kurt, if it wasn't for our relationship, yours and mine, him and mine, I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing right now, because I needed to understand the mind and the motivation behind that mind for the changes and the things that you've been doing over these few years, where there was change going on, and some of us took it the wrong way. Some of us weren't quite sure how to take it, and some of us maybe got it. But I said it was really important for me to know you as a person and your motivation in order to fund my enthusiasm and excitement for the future. And I said to him, I know that this is not your domain. You don't go around talking to people, and you're not in the public eye, and you don't like being there. But that I would do my part to express to the group sentiments that I think are important to me, that are relevant from this relationship. And I can assure you, he wants this to work as much as we do, and is doing all the things that he feels important and necessary, and not doing the things that he doesn't feel are important and necessary. So just keep that in mind, that he has the most difficult of these roles, which is to balance the books, make sure that monies are directed in a way that are safeguarding the future of Nikan. But there is one thing he made extremely and abundantly clear to me, and that was, it was up to the field. It was completely up to the field what's going to happen with the future of Nikan. It's all about what we do, because it's not his job to expand the company. It's not his job to find the customers. It's not his job to recruit the next leaders. It's entirely in our hands. And he knows that, and he understands that. So he's looking to us, and at least we got each other to have that conversation with. Back to you, Ben.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think just on that point, it certainly is important for each of us to appreciate the role that we play in Nikan. And I want to share a slide with you. It actually comes from a presentation I'm doing this weekend down in Brighton in the UK. I just want to share one particular slide here. I think you'll find this quite insightful. I hope so anyway. There's no one here from the UK on this call today, so I'm not going to be revealing too much. So can you see the slide of the trees? Yeah? So the question here is, how many trees do you see in this picture? Well, what we can see is a vast, beautiful, thriving forest of many trees, one would think. But the reality is, this particular tree, it's called the Pando tree, is actually all one tree. This is a forest made from one singular root system. I find this a fascinating metaphor. In fact, not only is it powerful in its metaphoric principle here, but here's some interesting context about this beautiful tree. It covers over 100 acres of land. I think it's about 46 hectares. It is recognized as the heaviest living organism on the planet. It's over 60 tons in weight as a living organism. It's also recognized as the oldest living organism in the world, with a minimum age of at least 80,000 years. They say that the trees, the individual shoots that come up here in these trees, in the form of these trees, live to be about 130 years old, according to their rings, the rings on the tree. But when you look at the roots, they go into tens of thousands of years old. And it's even suggested that it could be into, goodness knows, well beyond 100,000 years. Now, why do I share this? What is the relevance of this? I want to share one last slide. I'm going to flick through some of these. And this is, I'm going to pull in Jim Carrey here, a wonderful comedian, but he's also quite a philosopher as well. And he wrote a children's book about a wave called Roland. And he said the story here is about a wave named Roland who's afraid that one day when he hits the beach, his life will be over. But when he gets deep, he's struck by the notion that he's not just a wave, he's the whole big wide ocean. I just absolutely love that. I think that's kind of cool. So why do I share that? I share it because each of us are a part of a one singular organism, Niken. We might look like individual trees dotted around the world, but I think when we can learn to really tap into the network, the root system, which is the social network of this business, the heart that feeds everything, then we realize that we've got far greater potential to achieve more than what we currently might think we have. Sometimes, as we're putting on our events, as we're hosting different meetings, be it in San Francisco, Chicago, Colorado, down in Brighton in England, and Paris, France, wherever the meetings might be, sometimes we might go into those events as a launch partner and think it's little old me doing this meeting. But what we've got to realize is we're not just the wave, we're the whole big wide ocean. We're a part of that whole network here. And what we do influences the collective. So with that in mind, I just want to ask a couple of questions. As we're hosting these meetings and we're bringing our guests and our customers and what have you, I want to ask about the follow-up that takes place. Do we find that the people that we're inviting to these meetings, are we inviting them to participate in any of the weekly webinars? Some of these calls, I think whether you're in Niken or not, are valuable insights. I would like to think that the calls that I do, for example, on Tuesday, would be beneficial, not just for an existing Niken consultant, but if you had a prospect, if they came in and listened, that they could feel that this was something of value that could give them insights and help them appreciate that they, as they join Niken, will not just be a wave, but they'll be a part of the whole big wide ocean. Yeah, that as they come in and as they plug into a aligning with success call or a getting started call, or whichever of the calls that they might be hosting or participating in, that they're not just going to be a single tree planted in the middle of a forest. That they're actually going to be instead a part of a huge living organism that feeds each other and helps everyone to thrive and to live and to succeed. We need to help people feel that. And they can feel that if we don't just invite them to the meetings, but that we invite them to everything else that is offered and that is on the table with Niken. So I would love for this to happen, that the people that we bring to the meetings can sit down and say, I think I know a little bit about what's going on today because I've listened to some of these calls you guys have during the week. I'm pleased to say I've done some ABCs this past week where I've seen that happen, where I've been talking to people and they're saying, oh, I'll see you on Sunday at the weekend event down in Brighton, and they've already had their ABCs. They've already spoken with people. They've had presentations. They've watched some of the webinars. These people that I spoke with earlier this week have both watched the webinars and watched them on YouTube and have gone through and watched a couple for themselves in their spare time. And they'd had an ABC, and then they're coming to the meeting. As they come to the meeting, having had that experience beforehand, what do you think the chances are of them signing up? Because these people are already talking about entrepreneur clubs and they've not signed up yet. I think that's really powerful. So if we can help people feel that there is a whole network of support here, come to the meetings, yes, but recognize that there are ABCs that can strengthen them in coming to the meetings, that there are YouTube videos, that there are live webinars that can strengthen their experience and feeling like they are not that singular tree being planted in the middle of a field, but they're a part of that wonderful big living organism. That yes, they might be a day old in Nikan, but actually their root system is 42 years old. Wouldn't that be awesome? That'd be pretty cool. So I would invite us to do that, to consider that. And also, again, one last thought from me is potentially there could be a habit for some of us to delay extending invitations to come to meetings to the final hours. Do you find that happens sometimes? You put the date in the diary, you book the meeting, you do all the administrative stuff to host, but the difficult part, the challenge, the bit that makes us a little bit nervous is often the picking up the phone and extending the invitations, asking someone to come along. And often we can leave it to the week before, sometimes even to the last few days before the event, before we quickly go through our list and start inviting people. I'd encourage everyone, if you've got your list, get your list up to date, but utilize that list throughout the month. Get people to ABCs, get them onto some of the live webinars, show them some of your favorite recordings, help them see that they're a part of a network so that when they come to the meeting, this is a really important thing for them to experience, but then it's the finishing touches. And then they're ready to sign up. And then after they've signed up, what do? They plug into the weekly schedule, the webinars, the meetings, and what have you, and they continue on with that connectedness. And of course, hopefully they've got an A that they can turn to and be a part of this ABC program as well, which I think is so critical. So I hope that helps. I want us all to have the best experience at these events. We're getting people to our meetings, but I do think that extending invitations early is also very important. And if it's too early in your diary to invite them to the meeting because you think that they might grow cold in between, then invite them to a webinar, invite them to an ABC, invite them to read a book that'll help them change their paradigm, invite them to do something so that in the follow-up, as the meeting gets closer in the date, in the schedule, in the calendar, that the invitation has greater relevance for them. We all know that it's multiple contacts that people need before they get in. But we've got, like I said, I just love that metaphor of the Pando tree. They're a part of a big system that is living and breathing and has been around a long time before them and will be a long time after. But pull them in, help them feel connected to that root system. Help them feel that they might feel like a little wave when they get started, but when they join Nikan, they're a part of the whole big wide ocean. So they're my thoughts for today. Again, as Mike said, just to reiterate, let's get the next 6 months calendar system booked up. Let's get it filled in. Let's put the dates in the diary. And of course, let's get as many contacts happening sooner rather than later, because we've got all that stuff in between to connect people with, which is really helpful.
I just want to reemphasize that get the dates in the diary, because let's say you come across a date as you're getting closer, you realize this is going to conflict with something, you can change that. But if you've got the main dates already planning for that in your mind, in your mindset, then understand that those are lock-in events. Those events are necessary events to help complete a process for somebody who's at some stage of the introduction to Nikan where they haven't yet locked in. What does that mean? They haven't yet made the shift from being a consultant or a distributor or a direct to being a launch partner. They haven't made that shift yet. So we're trying to recruit launch partners to launch people, and then find the next batch of launch partners, and then find the next batch of launch partners. So this is a template. What we're doing here together is a template, cross-line albeit, but it's a template for what you want to be breaking into your organizations. The Nikan Connect that Ben's been talking about, powerful tool to show people that there is a support network. I wanted to touch on one real quick thing that I was using over the course of the last 2 weeks as well. These two tools, this is my business discussion. This is conversation number 3 in that zigzag, in that backward zigzag for me. That top one here, where we talk about the what does it take? Well, this is it. Your $1 million list, named appropriately the $1 million list, as Bernadette went over. The idea of rating those names and then turning that list through a process, which is featured here again, turning that list through a process into a team, a launch team, and that's your strategy. So why do we want to do that? Because we want to grow our business and have access to all of these incredible rewards, which Nikan has laid out for us. And so the first one, the Entrepreneurs Club, would be actually achieved. It would be a consequence of this launch. It would be a consequence. But you've got to have the names in order to do a launch, because a launch, as Bernadette pointed out, is flipping the cards over quickly, not slowly, one at a time.
So what about this? I have a question. Can we invite people to this call as well? Before you said this was just your host.
This is a launch partners call. This is specifically for you guys. And by the way, I know we didn't leave much time, but is there any feedback that you guys out there, especially over the last week or so, because I think it's been a pretty important week.
Well, I worked with Christine and Eunice last Monday, and she's doing a live Facebook video. I'm going back on Sunday night to Monday again, for me, back to Pennsylvania. There is a change in her. And for Bernadette, I had her in the back seat when we went last summer, so she got to hear Christine then. So there's the big change. So listening to Bernadette and having the experience that we had in week 1 with the Entrepreneurs Club, and going back this week, these calls and the other videos and forwarding everything else, it's really been critical. But being the A and being there.
Yeah.
Yes, being there, to be the demonstration, and then thank you.
You'll notice too that the dialogue is evolving. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is every single week we're picking up a better understanding of what needs to be discussed or what needs to be focused on. So you really don't want to miss these calls, because you may be missing a very key component of the next aha moment that one of us has had, because we're in the field doing the work and realizing where there needs to be an emphasis or a shift or something.
And Mike, I want to compliment you on that, because a lot of people are saying that. You know, Mike DiBuccio was always up there as that best dressed guy. But today, your dialogue with Dave and that story again about your dad and your heart and your confession, you know, of where you've been and what you've done here too. So it isn't just those that haven't gotten to your level yet, but you too, you know, that learning is lifelong, and that we are learning from one another. And so, and you can sometimes only retain so much until you practice it and do it. So that living example is critical. And so I really want to applaud you. And Ben, your creativity, your ability to storytell is profound. And that's very important. All these little metaphors, it's so important to remember that. And the tools that we have now. So I thank you.
Okay, guys, so let's recruit some more launch partners.
Yeah. I think that's the key. Okay, let me just conclude with one thought, and then we'll finish the call. I was speaking with a member of my team. I want to keep them anonymous, that's all right, because it was a personal experience that they shared, but I liked what they said. They were at a meeting, not that long ago, and another member of the upline pulled them aside and said, what did she call it? You're a rescuer, aren't you? You like to go out and rescue people, and that's how you build your business. You find people. She says, I bet you there's a good number of people that you recruit that don't have the $99 to sign up. Yeah, you're a rescuer. Now, there's nothing wrong with rescuing, but she said, you need to find your eagles. You need to find your eagles. We want to be able to rescue people, of course, along the way, but in order to build our business, we need to find the eagles. And again, using another metaphor, I feel bad doing this now that Madeline's just commented on my metaphors. But when the rain comes, most birds look for shelter. The eagle is the only bird that goes above the storm and flies up there. Yeah? So we need in our business to find the eagles, people that are willing to fly above the storm in order to get things done, not go looking for shelter. So just to reiterate, I know we are all nurturers, we are all supporters, we're all carers, we're all, we've got big hearts in Nikan, yeah? And that's a wonderful thing, but we need to combine the big heart with a keen desire to reach out and find the eagles in our business and bring them in. So with that said, we love you lots, and we'll speak to you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.